Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. During the early part of the fighting in the Atlanta campaign, captured Confederates marveled at the strange rifles used against them. A Chicago Tribune correspondent who traveled with Major General William T. Sherman's army left this observation in a report filed on June 6, 1864, from Ackworth, Georgia. Some of the rebel prisoners, with an air of curiosity worthy of a Yank, inquire where our boys get these guns, which they load on a Sunday and fire all the week. Well, these intrigued Confederates referred, of course, to the Henry repeating rifle, an innovative 44 caliber rimfire breech loading lever action weapon featuring a 15 round magazine patented by gunsmith Benjamin Tyler Henry in 1860, the eve of the Civil War. The vast majority of these 16-shot rifles were privately purchased by Union soldiers, and they were expensive. Those who could afford them enjoyed a distinct advantage. According to an 1864 newspaper report and advertisements, a soldier armed with a Henry could squeeze off 30 shots per minute, equal to 10 troopers with standard muskets. The Henry received a glowing review in a St. Louis newspaper. It was late 1861. This new gun is now under inspection by the War Department and is pronounced by officers high in position and by experienced sharpshooters to be the plus ultra in this Department of Invention, the best rifle in existence. Its magazine contains 15 of the improved cartridges, and its range is both effective and accurate at a distance of 1,000 yards. The whole piece is an example of beauty, symmetry, and strength combined. That term plus ultra, a great bit of Civil War pop culture expressions. Before long, these beautiful, symmetric, strong arms became legendary. Numerous reports of their effectiveness appeared in newspapers, including this one in the September 15th, 1862 issue of the Louisville Courier Journal, titled "A Brilliant Affair, Splendid Triumph of the Henry Rifle." The report reads, 2 or 3 days ago, as we learned by a gentleman from Owensboro, 3 loyal men near that place, armed with Henry rifles, had a conflict with 40 well-armed guerrillas and soon put them to a very hasty flight. The 3 gentlemen were at breakfast when the guerrillas surrounded them and demanded their surrender, but the brave fellows refused, and bringing their terrible weapons into quick and effective play, they at once cleared the field of their enemies. This was a brilliant triumph alike of heroism and Henry rifles. The rebels will very soon learn to be as much afraid of these rifles as ever they have been of gunboats. We would gladly put a single company armed with them against the best regiment of rebels, whether infantry or cavalry. Even an individual with one of them upon his shoulder or by his side can march with a sense of considerable security through places infested with rebels, if he but guards from being shot from behind a covert. Reports like this one made the Henry one of the most sought after weapons by soldiers. Only a small number were made relatively, less than 14,000 between 1860 and 1866, according to one report. If one were fortunate enough to get one, more power to them. Now, this brings us to the officer pictured here, one of the lucky owners who purchased his own Henry. He is Captain Allen Lewis Fahnestock, life dates 1828 to 1920, a peacetime grocer in Glassford, Illinois. In the summer of 1862, at age 34, he helped organize Company I of the 86th Illinois Infantry from Glassford and vicinity. Over the next 3 years, the regiment participated in the Georgia and Carolina campaigns. A prolific diarist, his journal can be found in the Abraham Lincoln Presidential Library, and other recollections published in newspapers have been often quoted over the last century in books and elsewhere. The writings Fahnestock left behind enable students of the Civil War, like you and me, to piece together details about how he came to pose with the Henry in this portrait. Fahnestock recalled the purchase of this rifle in Nashville, noting it was one of the first two for sale in the city, where the 86th spent time between November 1862 and August of 1863. The purchaser of the first rifle was Major Dan McCook Sr., one of two brothers who, with 13 of their sons together, became known as the Fighting McCooks. Now, here's a picture of McCook. It's published on Wikipedia. It pictures him with the Henry, very possibly the first Henry in Nashville. The elder McCook, pictured here, suffered a mortal wound during the Battle of Buffington Island, Ohio, where Union forces ended the raid of Brigadier General John Hunt Morgan. Fahnestock reported that the elder McCook tipped him off about the existence of the second rifle, which, of course, he then purchased. Now, it is likely that Fahnestock posed with the rifle in this portrait. We know it was taken in the Nashville Photograph Gallery of Joseph H. Van Staveren. So here he is in Nashville with the second Henry, and the presence of that Henry speaks to the prestige of the rifle and also Fahnestock's ability to acquire one of them. There can be no question that Fahnestock wants us to see his Henry and also the presence of the very large stars and stripes covering a table or perhaps a half column in the photographer's studio. He tells us that he used that Henry in defense of the United States and the Constitution. To this end, Fahnestock mentions using his Henry during the Battle of Chickamauga. The month leading up to the fight had tested the endurance of the 86th, exhausted in mind and body from long marches and encounters with guerrilla bands. The regiment had little time to rest when heavy skirmishing began on September 17th, 1863. 2 days later on the skirmish line, Captain Fahnestock encountered two rebels who shouted, "Surrender, you Yankee son of a bitch." Fahnestock recorded what happened next in his journal. "I did not appreciate such language. I leveled my Henry rifle 16 shooter and shot both of them." Less than a year later, during the Atlanta campaign's Battle of Kennesaw Mountain, Fahnestock, now the lieutenant colonel of the 86th, lent his Henry to one of his comrades, pictured here, Allison Pitts Weber. He's the regiment's principal musician, or fife major. Fahnestock recalled that Weber fired 100 rounds at 27 paces, where he could see the enemy by the hundreds, and saved many of the brave boys who lay wounded under the rebel works, giving them a chance to crawl back to our lines. Weber later received the Medal of Honor for his gallantry. Well, Fahnestock purchased a second Henry and gave it to Weber, possibly in part to get his original rifle back. That second Henry exists, the one that he bought for Weber, and you can see a picture of it here. You can also see the inscription on the stock. I'll read it to you. It says, "Presented to A.P. Weber, Fife Major, 86th Illinois Infantry, by Lieutenant Colonel A.L. Fahnestock for bravery in many battles, June 1864. Both of the Henrys survive today, and they're documented with other artifacts thanks to the efforts of Baxter B. Fight III on Fahnestock's Find a Grave page. Now, as many of you students of firearms know, Henrys continued to be in use after the war, notably by Sioux and Cheyenne warriors in the 1876 Battle of the Little Bighorn, which annihilated 5 of 7 companies of the 7th U.S. Cavalry, including its commander, Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer. So thanks for listening to the story of the Henry rifle during the Civil War and seeing a photograph of Lieutenant Colonel Fahnestock and one of the first 2 Henrys in Nashville. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.